I appreciated Jess lifting up our humanity in her words for reflection, because I'm going to start with a story of my humanity, which is that I've tried several times in my life to learn Spanish. It's one of those skills that I want to be able to just have, but I never seem to be able to stick with it long enough to get anywhere. I'm always good for a little while, that first week, right? Maybe a couple of weeks if I'm lucky, and then I fall off the wagon. There are so many other worthy things to spend my time on, and this one consistently gets placed on the back burner. I could tell you almost the exact same story about my efforts to learn to play guitar. Someday. But for the last 8 months, I have practiced some Spanish, even for just a few minutes, nearly every day. This has almost nothing to do with a change in my own resolve or my ability to persevere. I have not changed, actually, in the last 8 months in those ways. The reason I have been able to stick with it is that I'm not trying to do it alone. Last spring, my husband, Tristan, and I decided that we were both going to try and learn Spanish, and we were going to keep one another accountable. It always helps to have a buddy, right? So we got one of those apps that tracks your progress. We are millennials, after all. And tells you how many days in a row you've practiced. And even better, for my competitive side, it tells you which one of us is winning at any given time. And just so you know, it's me right now. Don't ask me next week. There have still been times when I've missed a few days, or when I feel like it's going to take forever to get anywhere at this rate. My Spanish is not ready for prime time. But having someone else to remind me and encourage me, and yes, sometimes to compete with, is the only reason that I am still going strong 8 months later. Perseverance is often seen as this lonely, solitary thing. We hear that word, perseverance, and we think about that image of Sisyphus from the myth, rolling that rock all on his own up the hill again and again and again. Or we think about mountain climbers or marathon runners, or those people, and you know these people, those people who will not get off the phone with customer service or some other bureaucracy until they get exactly what they want. Those are our images of perseverance. It's less often that we think about perseverance as a collective act, as something that we participate in together, as something that in fact needs all of us. And yet we know, don't we, as Unitarian Universalists, that we can do more together, that we are stronger together, that when we join our voices and our hands and our hearts, we can do more and be more. In this culture of individualism in which we live, we too often forget that perseverance is about reaching out and asking for help, that it is about all of us offering our gifts to the larger endeavors of which we are a part. Rabbi David Wolf tells a story of a boy and his father who were walking along a road when they came upon a large stone. The child looked at the stone and then looked at his father and asked, "Do you think if I use all my strength, I can move this rock?" His father looked at the rock and then looked at his child and answered, "If you use all your strength, I am sure you can do it." And so the child began to push the rock. Exerting himself as much as he could, he pushed and pushed and pushed But the rock did not move. Discouraged, he turned back to his father and said, "You were wrong. I can't do it." His father put his arm around the boy's shoulder and said, "No, son, you didn't use all of your strength. You didn't ask me to help." What would the world be like if we understood our strength not to be about individual strength, can I push that rock alone, but instead about collective strength? Can we push that rock together? And what would our church be like if we understood our strength to be the sum of all of our strength? As you've heard, our theme for this year's stewardship campaign is sustaining our vision. That word sustain is a beautiful one. It comes from two Latin roots. Sub, meaning up from below, and tenere, meaning to hold. So literally, sustain is to hold up from below. As I've been thinking about this theme, I've been imagining this image of all of us sustaining our vision, an image of us holding up this church together. Can you imagine that? I love this image, and it is so real to who I understand us to be trying to be. As Unitarian Universalists, we take pride in being a part of creating our congregations. We're not interested in coming into some space that has just been created for us with no opportunity to participate in the ongoing evolution and sustenance of the church. We take ownership for our congregations. We are a part of that holding them up, keeping them going, sustaining them for years to come. You, each of you, are a part of holding up this congregation, keeping it going, sustaining it for years to come. You are a part of the perseverance of this congregation. Did you know that without you, there would be no church? It would be an empty, echoing space that would eventually fall down, disintegrating from lack of purpose and lack of care. You, each one of you, bring purpose and care to this church, to this congregation. You sustain our vision, holding it up from below. One of the great privileges of my job is that I get to spend a lot of time hearing from you what your vision is for this congregation. With the work of our long-range planning committee that they've been doing this fall and winter and will continue in the months to come, this has especially been the case. I've lost count of how many times I've gotten to be present when members of that committee have come to different groups in the congregation and ask big questions about what your vision is for this congregation 5, 10, and even 20 years from now. It's been inspiring for me to hear what your dreams for us look like. And I want to share some of what I've heard. You envision us as a community where all are loved, all are worthy, all are welcome. You see this as a place where people can explore their own spiritual paths, but are not alone in their exploring. Does that sound right? You envision a place where people of all ages and stages of faith formation can find ways to learn and grow and deepen their commitments and their faith. You imagine a place where our eldest and our youngest members connect with and learn from each other. Does that sound right? You envision a congregation that cares for one another in both tangible and intangible ways. You imagine a place where people feel supported and loved. Can you imagine that? You envision a congregation where you can try out new ways of being and take on projects that you might not be able to do anywhere else, without judgment when you make mistakes, which we do. You imagine a congregation bursting at the seams with energy and enthusiasm and people. Does that sound like your vision? And you envision a congregation that is deeply connected to our neighborhood and to the greater Nashua community. You imagine that we are known as a force for love and justice. You see us as deeply and meaningfully connected to the Nashua Interfaith community and to our own National Unitarian Universalist Association. How's that for a vision? You envision all of this, and the reality is a lot of it is already here, isn't it? This isn't some far-off dream of who we might be. This is who we are already being now. We are already living this vision in so many ways. I know that we can do better. But it's just as important to celebrate how we are already living out our dreams. So think about it. Can you think of at least one way that we are living out these visions we have cast for ourselves? Can you? Raise your hand. Can you think of one? At least one? Come on. There's more of you who can think of one. Think a little harder. I know that I can probably think of enough to fill my two hands, at least 10 ways. If you come to fellowship hour after the service, I invite you to find someone and share with them one way you see us living out our vision. And if you're new to this congregation, find someone who seems like they've maybe been around the block a few times and ask them, how is this church living out that vision? So we've got a vision, and we've already got a good start on it. And this is where the perseverance comes in. This is where we get to the notion of sustaining, of holding up from below. This vision won't last a day if we aren't committed to offering our strength to help sustain it. You may know that asking for money in a church can sometimes be a loaded topic. There are some people who believe we shouldn't speak of money in this sacred space. But the reality is that money is one of the things that we need to sustain our vision. It's not the only thing. We can't do it just with money, but it's a part of the picture. We hold up this church in all kinds of different ways, with our presence, with our time, with our individual talents, and yes, with our money. Our strength comes from each one of you. And as that father said to his son when he tried to move the stone on his own, we aren't using our full strength unless we ask for help. So today, I'm asking you to consider, how can you sustain our vision with your financial gifts this year? How can you put your money where your values are to help us hold up this church from below and keep reaching towards our dreams for this community and for our world? As Michael Moore says, together, we can sustain a very long, beautiful song for a very, very long time. You don't have to do it all, but you must add your voice to that song. Today, I'm asking you to add your voice to our song. We need every voice to sustain our song. We are responsible collectively for sustaining our vision. So how will you join your voice in our song? How will you rise up to help us continue reaching for our dreams?
Broken down and tired of living life on the merry-go-round. You can't find a fighter, but I see it in you, so we're gonna walk it out and move mountains. We gonna walk it out and move mountains. And I'll rise up, I'll rise like the day. I'll rise up, I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up, I'll do it 1,000 times again. And I'll rise up high like the waves. I'll rise up, I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up, I'll do it 1,000 times again. For you, for you. When the silence isn't quiet and it feels like it's getting hard to breathe, I know you feel like dying, but I promise we'll bring the world to its feet and move mountains. Bring it to its feet and move mountains. And I'll rise up, I'll rise like the day. I'll rise up, I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up, I'll do it 1,000 times again. For you, that we have each other, and for that we have each other. We will rise, we will rise, we will rise. Oh, we'll rise, and I'll rise up, rise like the day. I'll rise up in spite of the ache. I will rise 1,000 times again. And I'll rise up high like the waves.